Public, either in attendance or watching at home, welcome to this evening's planning committee. I will just run through some housekeeping rules. Should the fire alarm sound, if there's a need to evacuate, please follow the lead of our officers and exit the building on their instruction and congregate where indicated at the front of the building so we can make sure that everyone's accounted for. Do not use the lifts, thank you. Please ensure that mobile phones are either set to silent or switched off. The meeting is being recorded and you may be visible on camera. If this is an issue for you, please let one of the officers present know of your concern. Protocol for the meeting. I will now run through the protocol for member and public participation and the rules of debate. Please note that the Chair's ruling during the debate will be final. The planning officer will introduce the item relating to the planning application and summarise the main points. When the introduction has been completed, I will then invite members of the public who have registered to speak on the item to address the meeting. If you have registered to speak, I will introduce you by name and invite you to step forward. Please use the microphone and you will have 3 minutes and will be asked to stop once your time has expired. Members of the committee then will be given the opportunity to ask questions or to clarify statements. The item will then be moved and seconded and debated before a vote is taken. We'll move on to the agenda now. Agenda item 1, apologies for absences. Carol?
Thank you, Chair. We've got Councillors Brackenbury, Brooke, Kilgallen, McLean and Cahoon, and Councillor Jonathan Carvetta is joining us as a substitute. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Item 2, minutes of the meeting held on 6th of August 2025. You have the minutes from 6th of August. In your pack, do I have a proposer and seconder, please, for the adoption thereof? Thank you, councillors. Can I have a show of hands, please? Thank you. That is carried. I will sign the minutes. Cheers. Thank you. Agenda item 3, members' declarations. Members, can I ask you to confirm that you are coming to the meeting with an open mind and that you are not predetermined the application before you? Scott?
I'd like to declare an interest in agenda item number 4. My children attend Sir Christopher Hatton School, 2 of them. However, I do come here with an open mind and have not predetermined the application.
Thank you, Scott. That's noted. Can I ask if anyone has visited the site listed on the agenda? And finally, does anyone have a declaration that you wish to make, please? If you could state the item, nature of the interest, whether it's disclosable, pecuniary interest or non-statutory interest, that would be helpful. Thank you, members. So we'll move on to item 4. And the first one is NE-25-00056- Uniform Lima, Sir Christopher Hatton School. I will hand over to Debbie Kirk to present the report and update.
Thank you, Chair. This application seeks planning permission for 3 elements. A 2-storey teaching block providing 6 classrooms, 2 small offices, ancillary sanitary facilities and storage, as well as a large open space at first floor level. A car parking area extension is also proposed on the eastern side of the site to provide an additional 14 parking spaces, and the existing sports facilities will be enhanced with a small multi-use games area, also known as a MUGA. The term MUGA is largely used in reference to a sports pitch which will facilitate multiple sports such as football, basketball and netball. So Christopher Hatton School is a mixed secondary school and sixth form catering for children between the ages of 11 and 18. The school has an academy status and is located to the north of Wellingborough town centre, Vehicular access to the school is taken from the Pyghtle, and the school is formed of several detached blocks varying from single storey to 3 stories high. The surrounding area to the school site is formed on 3 sides by residential dwellings in the Pyghtle, 4 to 20 Evans, the Ridgeway, Cedar Way, Thrush Lane, and 25 to 31 Covington Grove, and the car parking serving the school is located within dedicated bays adjacent to the existing southern part and part of the eastern elevation of the school. This slide shows where the 3 different elements are going. This is with the multi-use games area, and then there is a school extension going just here adjacent to an existing sports facility, and then on this side, just in this area, is where the car park extension is proposed. The next slide is a block plan, and it shows the school extension in grey, where the multi-use games area is, and also where the car parking is going. This slide shows the elevations of the school extension, which you'll see is 2 stories in height. This slide shows what the multi-use games area would look like, the design of it. This slide shows the location of where the school extension is proposed to go. As I said earlier, it's adjacent to the existing sports block, and there was a 2-storey extension that was permitted back in 2019, and the design of the extension takes reference from this building. This is just another slide showing the location of the school extension. This is where the multi-use games area is, and shows properties in Cedar Way, and you'll see that the flank elevation of properties side onto the school, and this is another slide showing where the multi-use games area is and showing the flank elevation of the closest property, and the land actually slopes as you move across the site. And this is the last slide, just showing where the MUGA school extension and the car park is. In terms of the principle, in terms of the justification, the applicant outlines that the Sir Christopher Hatton Academy is graded by Ofsted as good with outstanding features, and that the Academy is in the top 10% of schools for progress nationally in 2022 and 2023. The data was for 2024 is yet to be published, and is consistently the highest performing school in the Wellingborough area. As a result of this success, the applicant states there is increasing demand for school admission places. The published admission number is currently 240, which was increased from 210 in 2019, and the school has been consistently oversubscribed for the past 10 years, and a further increase from 240 to 270 pupils was negotiated in 2024 to support the local authority with the current shortage of secondary places. Demand for sixth form places have increased due to the school's high performance, which puts additional pressure on the sixth form resources, both in terms of common room, study facilities, and in terms of teaching spaces. The principle for the school extension on this established school site in the area of high growth is acceptable. In relation to the multi-use games area, this facility is to be provided in the northwest section of the school site, positioned between the existing school buildings and the rear gardens of the neighbouring properties of Cedar Way. The need for the multi-use games area is explained by the applicant as a new sports and recreation facility to enhance the existing sports provision on the school site. The applicant further underlines that the school currently lacks a dedicated area for outdoor football on a suitable playing surface. During periods of bad weather, this activity is currently carried out on the existing tarmac netball courts. In order to enhance the sporting development of the pupils, an all-weather facility for the football use is required. Sport England have accepted the multi-use games area meets their exception criteria, subject to further details on design, which can be covered by a condition. The car park, the additional car park, will support the increase in the school building and therefore is acceptable in principle. The key issue with this application and the outstanding objection by Sport England to the school is to the school extension and footpath. Sport England's objection is outlined in the officer's report, but as highlighted in the report, Wellingborough is a growth area which increases pressure on school places and hence the need for the additional accommodation. There are limited areas on the site to provide this accommodation. It's accepted that the extension and the multi-use games area will result in the loss of existing playing field, but there will be adequate open space of playing field remaining for students to use during breaks. It is also the case that the extension will not impact on the existing playing pitches, while the multi-use games area will allow for a sloped area of the field to be used as a purpose-made play area to the benefit of the school and community. The footpath will not encroach onto the existing playing fields. The benefits of the required classrooms outweighs the loss of a section of playing fields. In terms of design, the school extension design is similar to other two-storey extensions on the site and will complement these other extensions. The extension will therefore not appear out of place. The multi-use games area is a standard design and will appear appropriate on the school site. The car park is a simple extension of the existing hard surface car park on the site. In terms of the neighbouring impact on neighbours, the extension will have no adverse impact on neighbours sharing the northern boundary with the site. The multi-use games area is positioned close to the shared boundary with properties in Cedar Way, but will not be provided with floodlights, so this reduces the impact in terms of any light and noise late into the evenings. The recommendation is that members support to approve to allow the application being referred to the National Planning Unit to determine if the application needs to be called in by the Secretary of State. Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie. We've had no requests have been received to address the meeting, so members, do you have any questions of clarity for the officer? So, for the purpose of debate and in accordance with the Council's Constitution, Meeting Procedure Rules 19.2 and 19.21, I will move the recommendation at page 36 of the report as follows. It is recommended that delegated power be given to the Executive Director of Place and Economy to approve the application, subject to the application being referred to the Secretary of State for consultation under the Town and County Planning Consultation England Direction 2024, to obtain confirmation from the Secretary of State that the application will not be called in for their own determination, and two other conditions contained with section 11 of the report, and to include any other amendments deemed necessary. Do I have a seconder? Councillor? Thank you. Thank you, councillors. Right, members, we will now debate the application before you. James?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I've looked at the application and I've no concerns with it. There's a 10% biodiversity net gain on site, which is going to be achieved with wildflower meadows. There's going to be no light pollution from floodlighting of the MUGA pitch. And the MUGA pitch is going to be all weather, so I think that probably gives more playing time to the pupils and other members of the community than the grass pitches probably would. So I've got no concerns about this application.
Thank you, James. Any other members like to? Scott?
Perhaps this is one for the officer. Is there an agreement for public use? Is it going to be used by outside bodies at all?
Sport England asked for a condition to be imposed for a community use agreement, and the school, when I spoke to them this morning, have confirmed that it is used currently at weekends by outside bodies, and they would be allowing the outside bodies to continue to use the school playing fields, and obviously the multi-use games area would be an enhancement for those in the community to use. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. Right, I think we've had a good discussion on this item. The recommendation is previously detailed has been moved and seconded, and we'll go now to the vote. Members, can you please vote clearly by holding up the relevant coloured cards? I think that's carried. There's 2, 4, 6, 8, 8, 4. So those in favour have voted all for. The motion is declared and carried. There was no absentees and no votes against. Thank you, Debbie. Item 5. Page 47 of your pack, reference NK-2024-0752, Kettering Leisure Park. I'll hand over to John Cosgrove to present the report and update the committee. Thank you, John.
Thank you, Chair. Councillors. This application seeks the demolition of existing buildings on the site, the clearance of the site, and its change of use to an open storage use for storage and distribution, along with works to the boundary treatment, the means of access, hard and soft landscaping and associated works. The site is located here between the A14 and the A509 on the outskirts of Kettering. It's within the built-up area of Kettering, but not within the town centre itself. The surrounding land uses are commercial, and the site currently contains a cinema, a number of restaurants and a former public house, all of which, except for one of the restaurants, which is a KFC unit to the far east of the site, already benefit from permission for demolition. Here's the existing site layout. You can see the KFC there to the northeast that's to be retained, the public houses to the west, and then the cinema and the 2 restaurants that already benefit from permission for demolition. The site's largely hard standing. There's some trees and shrubs within the site, but very little else in terms of ecological value, and it is screened from the surrounding area by a belt of trees. So the loss of the buildings would have very limited impact on the character of the site or the wider area. There's the boundary showing the red line and blue line. If you can see the blue line, that is the extent of the applicant's ownership, and the red line is the area to be redeveloped. There you go. The buildings outlined in red there, the cinema, the public house, and the 2 restaurants are the ones that benefit from existing consents for demolition. The cinema and the 2 restaurants was via permitted development. There's no planning permission required to demolish them, whereas planning permission was granted for the demolition of the pub. It was accepted during the run of these applications that, very unfortunately, these leisure uses on this site weren't viable. and then we don't really have a policy grounds for retaining them. And it felt throughout that process that it was really unrealistic to try and retain a leisure use on the site based on the viability. Excuse me, bear with me. Again, you can see here the extent of the buildings to be demolished. This is to happen in 2 phases. So the initial first phase of the development would be the demolition of the buildings that already have consent for demolition, with the KFC to be retained, and the change of use to open storage and distribution taking place on that phase, with the second phase would also involve the demolition of the KFC and the conversion of the whole site. The site's accessed from the A506 by Pegasus Court, which is a private road. National Highways have been clear that they have no objections to the change of use or the highways impact. The local highways authority have pointed out that they had some issues from within the site, but that it's a private road, and this is something that could be dealt with by condition just in terms of the layout. We don't have a lot of details on the internal layout. That's the existing access into the area itself to be changed of use from the roundabout on Pegasus Court. And gates would be installed within the application site quite a way in, and they'd be after the turn for the KFC. Roughly here, that's the way in and roughly out. The gates would be roughly where that pedestrian crossing is now. This is a plan showing the phased demolition. So as you can see, the area within the purple would be phase 1 of the scheme. And that's the second phase showing the entirety of the site demolished, cleared, and with a change of use to storage and distribution. These are the sections showing the jagged lines there, are the buildings that are currently existing. So you'll see on phase 1, all you can really see surrounding it is the fence to be erected and the retained KFC unit below. Again, taken from other angles, you see the same, be a largely clear site. The same applies to the second phase. So the only difference being the KFC is gone. These are the gates and fences that are proposed. Very standard kind of industrial appearance. Again, the site has very limited ecological potential, but is subject to 10% biodiversity net gain that we believe will be secured off-site in this case, as the applicant can choose to do so because it's such a small overall gain. We did have some concerns were raised by Anglian Water and by the Flood Authority in terms of surface water drainage, which we were somewhat puzzled by because the entire site is hard surface and the proposed use would lead to a lesser demand for water than the existing uses would in terms of active drainage. So it's considered acceptable subject to a condition. That's about it unless you have any other. Sorry. Yeah, there is a small update. We reworded, the application is now subject to an extension of time, and we reworded the biodiversity net gain condition to make it more precise and tighter than what was included in the original pack. So thank you very much, Chair and Councillors.
Thank you, John. I have received 2 requests to speak. Could I have Councillor Jonathan Smith of Kettering Town Council first, please? You have 3 minutes, Jonathan.
My apologies, councillors, thank you. Leisure in Kettering has declined dramatically over the past 30 years. At its height, we had a football stadium, KLV's ice rink, adventure swimming pool, laser tag, a bingo hall, and a cinema. All of that is now gone. We can't keep going on like this. We're on our way to become a dormitory with a bowling alley and not a great deal else. Now, I want you to object this proposal because of material planning concerns, not because it's also detrimental to our town. So I'm going to talk to you about the NNC Joint Core Strategy, and the Kettering Site-Specific Local Plan. Now, they don't really roll off the tongue, so I'm going to call them the Core Strategy and the Local Plan. These are designated as community facilities. All of the things on this site would be classified as community facilities under those plans. Now, the Core Strategy Policy 7 requires applications that propose the removal of a community facility to demonstrate they are no longer viable, no longer needed, and are not needed for other community facilities. They also require that any marketing demonstration is done for 12 months prior to the application. This application includes none of those requirements whatsoever. It has no proof that it is viable or not needed, no evidence of any alternative community facilities have been discussed or considered, and no evidence of marketing. Now, if I'm being charitable, a previous application does include evidence of marketing, but literally only for 2 of the restaurants and nothing else. No demonstration of talking about the pub, the cinema, or alternative community facilities. They've not included this because it cannot be demonstrated. That previous application demonstrated that there was interest for the redevelopment of the site from 4 fast food chains, but just not at rates that the landlord was willing to accept because it required the demolitions of the buildings. Now, let's be clear, I'm not against the development of this site, but the developer bought A3 and D2 land, and they are now asking you to rezone it to B8 because it's more profitable for them. The planning law is very clear in this scenario. They need to demonstrate that they have shown that it is not required for the existing use. They have not done that. The core strategy also, which the applicant highlights in their application, has a policy 37. They highlight in their application that this policy 37, which is called the Land at Kettering South, has B8 use in it. What they neglect to mention in their application is that policy 37 has 2 sections in it, section A and section B. Section A of that land is the land closest to the applicant's site. That land was expressly stated as not for B8 use. It was expressly designated, and I will quote, to provide small employment units primarily for B1 and general industrial use or public service.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, councillors.
Okay, if you could just stay seated for a minute.
Of course, sir.
Just see if there's any questions for clarity. Members? Any questions? Okay, then take your seat again. Thank you very much.
Thank you, councillor.
Next is James Benyon of Rockmount Kettering Limited. If I can ask you to speak, please. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, members. My name is James Boylan. I'm the planning consultant here, speaking on behalf of the applicant for the application before you. The scheme was subject to positive pre-application discussions with officers and proposes open storage in 2 phases. The first phase alongside the existing KFC being retained, and the second phase involving the demolition of KFC only in the event that they elect to leave. For the avoidance of any doubt, and as officers have clarified, demolition of all of the buildings at the site have already been consented under separate planning consents, and they are not part of the application, therefore, that is put before you this evening. Whilst I appreciate the concerns raised by the previous speaker, the loss of those existing units is not a relevant planning consideration for this application, as they do not form part of it. Those units were, however, not commercially viable, and as I said, the demolition has been approved already by officers. We are aware that the application is before you this evening solely on the grounds of an objection from the Town Council, and these comments were addressed by the applicant team through the application process, resulting in an officer recommendation for approval. For the avoidance of doubt, 5 comments were raised by the Town Council, and these were addressed through the following scheme benefits and controls imposed by officers. Number 1, the proposals would deliver new employment opportunities during both construction and operational phases, which is a net increase above an existing cleared and vacant site. Number 2, the full range of open storage uses proposed by the applicant have been assessed by the various technical reports, which support the planning application, and these have also been found appropriate by officers. Number 3, the scheme maximises on-site biodiversity value, although it is a challenging site to deliver on-site, and therefore mandatory and statutory requirements to achieve a 10% net gain are secured through off-site measures, and this is in accordance with the process imposed by legislation. Number 4, a surface water drainage strategy supports the application and demonstrates the appropriateness of the scheme. And number 5, in the event that vermin problems arise, these would be controlled through on-site management measures and aren't a relevant planning matter. In summary, the scheme will deliver a beneficial use of a vacant and soon-to-be cleared site, and it has been robustly demonstrated through the application itself that they are appropriate in all technical and environmental terms. We therefore support the officer's recommendation to grant planning consent, noting that the proposals comply with the relevant development plan policies.
James. Thank you very much. Members, do you have any clarity questions? James?
Yes, it relates to the surface water drainage. The planning officer mentioned it early, but I note that Anglian Water have raised concerns about that, and there is flooding at Stratford Way in the area, which the site would run off into. Also, the site is being cleared, so all the curbs are being removed. But there's no details about what the future strategy would be. And I'm concerned about the water from the site runoff affecting the Slade Brook and causing further flooding in the area. So I would like some reassurance on that matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. So the planning application was supported by a flood risk assessment and drainage strategy. Those were reviewed by officers and Anglian Water. Comments were raised which we believe was addressed through those reports. However, there is a planning condition imposed on the draft consent in the officer report, which prevents first occupation of the development until a further detailed surface water management strategy has been provided, and that will need the satisfaction of your officers before it is approved, and the scheme can therefore proceed beyond that stage.
Yes, it's the condition of occupancy of the site. I guess that's by tenants and storage, but the work's being done prior, so the curbs are being removed. So that's going to affect the drainage catchment and the way the water's contained on the site. So that's my current concern. Okay.
So the report that has gone in with the planning application at the moment has considered the existing and future use of the site. It demonstrates and is comfortable from a technical perspective that there are no adverse surface water implications of any of the works proposed.
Ben?
Thank you, Chair. You mentioned earlier about employment. I'm just curious to understand what employment measures are going to be on the site, because I appreciate that this is currently vacant land. However, obviously, when this would have been a functioning leisure facility, there would have been quite a number of employees on the site. With this being open air storage, what would the employment look like? And you mentioned earlier about construction, but the construction's really, is that not just the demolition? Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Very happy to clarify those questions. So I think in employment terms, yes, leisure and commercial uses as were on the site would have had a greater employment level. However, the baseline of the site at the moment is that there is no employment with the exception of KFC. In terms of the proposed development, specific employment numbers will be tenant specific. The reason the application is structured as it is to establish the use across the site, the enclosure of the site through boundary treatments, etc., and the general principles. And then there are subsequent conditions which would be discharged once a tenant is on board related to site layout, etc. So employment will be tenant-led, However, there will be employment both during construction related to the demolition works, the erection of site enclosures, boundary treatments, accesses, etc., the removal of any material from the site, and then during the operation, there will be the tenant-specific employment opportunities as well associated with the open storage use. Those can include on-site management and obviously linked jobs through supply chains, etc., associated with the open storage functions.
Any more questions? Ben again.
Thank you. Sorry, one more. With the, it was mentioned earlier about the market viability. I was just curious as why that's not come forward as part of this application. My own research beforehand, I kind of came to the conclusion that was something that should have been included with a change of use with this nature. So just curious as to why that was not included.
Very simply, because it's not part of the application. So we have submitted separate applications, several via the prior approval process to demolish some of the commercial buildings on there, and a separate full planning application for the demolition of the former public house, Hobson's Choice. Those were dealt with separately. As a consequence, we are not seeking consent to remove those uses from the site. And the policies related to the loss of community uses and the justifications that need to be provided aren't a material consideration of the planning application. We did, however, through pre-app and through the initial planning submission, provide some further information to the council, which was commercial advice which explained further around the reasons why the existing uses weren't viable in the current market, including both the cinema itself, and there was some market analysis done around that, around how the cinema was struggling to perform in the current circumstances and the local catchment, and also the wider units which benefited in the main as spin-off trade from the cinema, and with the decline in cinema performance they were struggling. I think that was evidenced through the long-standing vacancy of some of the units, but also the fact that both the cinema and, I'll just correct myself on the second unit, and the former pub at Hobson's Choice, both elected themselves to go to the landowner to confirm their removal and departure from the site, rather than the other way around. So they chose to, and they made the choice themselves to leave.
Any more questions? James, you may take your seat. Thank you very much. Right, for the purpose of debate and in accordance with the Council's Constitution, Meeting Procedures Rules 19.2 and 19.21, I will move the recommendation. Page 61. It's recommended that the application be approved subject to the conditions contained within section 11 of the report, along with amendments to condition 7 as detailed in the update. Do I have a seconder? Thank you. Right, members, we'll now debate the application before you. Ken?
Thank you, Chair. I just still don't think that we've demonstrated that this is an effective use of the land in the absence of a market viability or even an options appraisal. I appreciate that the land is currently vacant at the moment, and you know, as I'm sure everyone would like to see it being used for something. That being said, in the absence of an options appraisal, I don't see how we can make a decision, particularly on the change of use right now. So I'm currently feeling complicated on that at the moment. So I'd be just interested to see how other people think on that.
Thank you, Ben. James?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yes, I'm concerned about the way this site has been chipped away at with a number of permitted development applications. And we're talking about demolition of the cinema and the restaurants. Well, that's largely complete now, as I understand it. I am concerned about the change in status to B8 from a leisure area. Employment is being used as a reason to help promote this development, but based on its previous use as leisure, the amount of employment gained by an open storage area must be considered very low. So I don't see what the town gains and why we should allow the change of use for this site. I still have reservations about the drainage, because that hasn't been satisfactorily explained to me how it's going to be managed on site. And I note that Anglian Water have raised concerns that they want more information. Thank you.
Thank you, James. Any further? Councillor?
Well, I understand the logic behind what they're trying to do. I'm stuck in the middle between a rock and a hard place at the minute. I'm trying to decide. I'm unsure where to go, but it's complicated because we're losing an amazing, well, it was an amazing facility, but it's gone. And what's your guys' opinion? Ooh.
Ash?
Well, I mean, it's failed as a leisure facility, you know, as sad as it is, it's happening all over, you know. What else is it going to be? That's my views on it. It'd be lovely to see it thriving again, but I just can't see it happening, you know. That's where I'm at the moment.
Thank you, Ash. Gordon?
Thank you, Chair. I believe in a 50% of something is better than 100% of nothing. You know, if you can get something out of it, it's better than just sitting there doing nothing. So that's what I am.
Thank you, Gordon. Any other debate, Jonathan? Okay, right. Thank you very much. I think we should really move to the vote then, and the recommendation has been moved and seconded. Members, can you please vote clearly by holding up your relevant coloured cards? I have that 5, 4 and 3 against. Was there any no abstentions? The motion is declared carried with 5 votes for and 3 against. Thank you very much. So we'll move on to item 6 for discussion, which is NE-24-00850-FUL Glapthorn Primary School. I'll hand over to Martin Dale to present the report and update to the committee. Thank you.
Good evening. This is an application for the construction of a padel tennis court and a single eco-composting toilet facility on the existing playing field at the primary school. This is the general site plan with the tennis court in this location and the eco-toilet here. As I'll show you on later drawings, this is the bridle. There's a bridleway here, the car park is here, and there is a multi-use games area, as the old MUGA, in this location here. As you can see.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Sorry, we're still, officers still presenting.
Oh, sorry. Oh, sorry, I thought...
Sorry about that.
Oh, so as you can see, this is an aerial view plan showing the current location. This yellow area is the car park. The tennis court will be in this location here, and the toilet will be over here. And then these are the elevation details of the padel court, which is basically an enclosed structure with about, I think it's 4.5 metres high to enable the sport to happen. And then a separate one showing the layout of the court and the elevations of the proposed eco-toilet, which is to provide a facility in relation to the padel court. And then just some photos to give you a general idea. So this is the bridleway going up. This is the entrance to the car park. This is the car park with the padel court in this location here. Then again, picture of the bridle path going up farther, and again the padel court will be here approximately. Again, just to show you where the car park in relation to the padel court. And that's the multi-use games area, with this being the entrance to the car park. And that's the school, sorry. And again, that's showing the bridleway, the car park, and the court will be in this location here. So the applicant is the parish council, and the proposed padel court will be available for community hire. The Sports England have raised no objection to the application on the basis that it is a community hire facility, and as such consider it an exception to the playing field policies. So there's no requirement in this case to go to the Secretary of State like on the previous application. The principal concerns raised relate to the potential adverse impact on horses utilising the bridleway, and in relation to the potential noise from the development and the likelihood of light pollution. So in relation to the use of the bridleway, the Council's Public Rights of Way Office has raised no objection, and the Council's noise assessment is that if you take into account the existing uses of the car park and the multi-games use and the fact the site is an existing sports field, it won't generate an additional level of disturbance that will cause issues with users of the bridle path. In terms of light pollution, in terms of noise, the nearest property is I think 30 odd metres away and then 90 odd metres away. In terms of light pollution, the applicant is not proposing any floodlights, and as is included in the conditions, there's a condition stating that no floodlights, and if he wants to put any floodlights up, they'll need to apply to us to do that, which potentially they would have done anyhow, but the condition just reinforces that issue. The other requirement from Sports England to making the scheme acceptable was that it had to be built to their standards, and as a result of that, it's been agreed this can be dealt with by a condition basically detailing that even though elevation details are shown there, that full details will be submitted to ensure that the padel court meets the required standards. There was, I think there was an addition being proposed to the initial report because the ecologists considered that the necessary uplift in biodiversity net gain could be achieved through a planning condition in relation to the landscaping provision rather than the standard 30-year nationally prescribed statutory condition, and as such the condition 8 was amended just to make sure that they understood that the landscaping scheme that was submitted provided sufficient details to show the biodiversity up gain that is required on the site. That's it, thank you.
Thank you, Martin. I've received 2 requests to speak. The first is Isabel Presswich, if you'd like to come forward. Isabel, you have 3 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Isabel Prestwich and I've lived in Glapthorn for 40 years. I've owned and ridden horses on that bridleway for the entire time. I'm also a professional body worker with 45 years experience of all horses and ponies of every kind, and in my opinion, Very few of them would deal well with a situation like this. They are flight animals, so programmed to react to sudden unexplained noises and movement, usually by spinning and bolting in the opposite direction. Inevitably, balls will fly out of the court, whether intentional winning strategy or by complete misshot, will only further startle them. The close proximity to what has become a rat run road has considerable safety implications, and as in the event of a rider being thrown, the horse would very likely panic and bolt onto the road to get home to safety, thus potentially causing a road traffic accident. Glapthorn Manor Equestrian Centre is located 1/4 of a mile down that road and has been licensed since 1982. Its clients, the majority of whom are young, inexperienced children with neither the experience nor ability to control a horse in a situation like this, particularly want to hack. So in my opinion, a padel court here would be an accident waiting to happen. There has been much media coverage of problems caused by noise generated by the game, with many residents saying that they hadn't realised the extent of the noise padel would produce. In other areas of the country, applications to build padel courts have been rejected on noise alone, and these are not next to a bridleway. Horse riders are legally permitted to use only 22% of public rights of way, and more access to safe off-road riding is needed, not less. Please help keep bridleways open and oppose this application. It also says in the planning that the nearest courts are in Stamford and Market Harborough. Well, there are 3 here in Corby itself. Another objection to another of your reasons for for passing it is very few riders were even aware of this application, certainly none who live outside the village. And all local riders will use that from many villages. And there was also no notice put at the entrance of the bridleway. So in my opinion, padel courts belong in a sports centre, not in a rural village, and for that reason, I hope you reject the application.
Thank you, Isabel. Would you like to just stay seated for a minute? Councillors, any questions of clarity? Gordon?
Good evening. Is it Glapthorn Manor Equestrian?
Yes.
So, to get to the bridleway, do you have to go along the road?
1/4 of a mile along the road, yes.
So how do the horses deal with that?
Well, it gets a lot harder these days now that Weldon Village is there because there's a lot more traffic. But they can only get out on the road, so they have to go the 1/4 of a mile on the road. It's not the road that's the problem, it's the noise from the court. But if they then get spooked by the noise on the court, they will just turn around and run back onto the road and gallop down the road.
But don't they get spooked on the road by the motorbikes, cars and everything?
I can't.
Don't they get spooked on the road?
No, because they're educated. The traffic is passing fairly regularly. It's when they're sudden and they can see the cars coming. They will be spooked by a tractor on the other side of the hedge trimming when they can't see what it is. But the noise, sudden explosive noises will always make them jump.
Okay. And you said that there would be balls escaping from the court?
Yes.
But it's got mesh on the top, apparently, according to the plan.
I hadn't heard that. I was told it was...
When I read it today, it's all-sided with the mesh on the top.
So it's just going to be whacking onto the mesh and making a lot of noise then. So that's one
okay.
less
Thank
risk.
You.
But I was under the impression that it...
Well, it's got a mesh on the top.
It was good. Okay.
Thank you, Gordon. Darren?
How long have you been riding?
I have been riding for 55 years.
How many horses have you backed?
How many horses have I met?
Backed.
Councillor, we just
in excess of 20.
Yeah, the reason why I'm asking this is because obviously when you're backing a horse, you're actually trying to
Change the behaviour,
teach
yes.
it
Yes.
to desensitise
Yeah.
from things like this, for example?
But you can't desensitise from things that don't happen in everyday life.
Councillor, is there a question for clarification?
No, sorry.
Darren, can you make a question of clarification, please?
The question is, right, obviously, if you have desensitised a horse and you're going past such an area, surely it would, over time, become familiar to its surroundings, surely?
If it was in constant use and there was constant banging of balls on the mesh, then they might. Some would still find it offensive. And when you're backing a horse, it's not so much a question of desensitising it, it's teaching it to trust you so that when you say it's all right, they believe you. But the best trained horse in the world can be spooked when there's a sudden bang. I rode through a tripwire once and set off a pigeon scarer. And my horse, all he did was jump. But these children don't have the knowledge or the reaction time to be able to comfort their horse. They haven't built a relationship with their horse. They're young children who don't know what, they're just going for rides at the time. They're not actually in control of their horse.
Thank you, Darren.
And I would say it's a lot closer than 7.5 metres myself. But
any more questions, please? No? Okay, thank you very much, Isabel. You may take your seat. Secondly, we have Councillor Malcolm Moss. Councillor, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Chairman. Good evening, councillors. This project is through Glapthorn Parish Council and not the school, just to make that clear. Our recreation ground comprises a Sport England designed playing pitch, a car park, a children's play area, and an outdoor gym. The facilities cost £450,000, which the council raised through grants, and also through a commitment of our community to take a Public Works Loan Board loan of £60,000, which our residents are now repaying through their council tax. We've had issues with the playing pitch. This photograph must have been taken fairly recently because we power harrowed the field, because although it's designed as a Sport England pitch, we have clay soil, and the sand slits gave us great problems because we've had the hottest and driest summers on record for the last 3 years. We've now reseeded the field and it's coming on fine. When the planning application was approved last time, it stated clearly that it had to be retained as a Sport England pitch and maintained in perpetuity. That's some burden and responsibility for a parish council. So we're mindful that we have to keep maintaining this pitch at the approved level. Because we haven't been able to hire it out, we haven't had any income, and so the strain on the parish council has been fairly considerable. However, if we can get this padel court up and running, this will give us a steady income stream, which means that we will be able to maintain the field at the required level. Estimates of the annual maintenance range from about £8,000 up to £14,000, depending on how much sand you use as top dressing. So we would suggest that this is the only way the parish council can raise income to maintain its facilities. Why paddle tennis? It's incredibly popular. It's the fastest growing sport in the United Kingdom and Europe. The court itself is only 20 metres by 10 and fits conveniently into that corner. People suggested there may be alternative sites, but we don't have any. That is the only location that we can use. And there are a few courts in the local area. And in your report...
Thank you, Councillor. Your 3 minutes are up. But if you could just stay seated, please.
Sure.
Have we any clarity questions? Gordon?
Thank you, Chair. What's your expected income from the padel court?
Our business plan predicates about 6 hours of use a week and an income stream from that of £5,000 a year. If we had greater use, obviously the income would be larger. People would book online, so there'd be no reason for people manning the facility. They would be given a digital key lock to access the court.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Morris?
I'm just running something through my head at the minute. If the sound ends up being a lot, would you...
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
If the sound from the paddleboarding ends up being quite loud, would you try and mitigate it by any way possible to try and help the horse riders and stuff like that if it becomes a problem?
We've thought about this and we're prepared to do several things. We can't change the paddle court construction, but what we could do is put a net alongside the boundary of the bridleway up to 20 feet. These things are fairly common on sports fields to delineate between various activities on the field. If we can get the grant money for that, we will be prepared to do that. We're also prepared to put a notice on the court saying, at the approach of horses, please stop playing. We're prepared to put a notice also on the online booking system to remind people of that requirement, that they stop playing when horses approach.
So it's a bit of courtesy sort of thing, the same way you would do if you're passing a horse with a car. You just give them a bit of respect, give them a bit of space, and then they'll be fine.
Absolutely. I walk up there every day with my dog. Some of my colleagues use it regularly. It's a popular walking path as well as used by horses. But the number of horses using it is not that great. And no evidence was given this evening of the frequency of use along that bridleway of horse riding. The equestrian centre up the road was fully supported by the parish council. It's now a thriving business. And they are not here tonight to argue the case because they ride down that busy road before they access the bridleway.
Any more questions? Okay, you may take your seat. Thank you very much. Martin, would you like to come back on anything?
Just on a couple of points that have been raised. In relation to protecting the balls leaving the court, the original design was included a meshing to stop that happening, but as discussed, that design is going to change because there's a condition on requiring full details of the paddle court to be agreed to ensure that it meets the standards of Sports England, and it would be possible, I assume, within that to include, if there's other means of minimising noise, to include those within that. There's also a condition proposed on the planning application that says, prior to the use of the paddle court, details of a sign stating that court users and visitors should be mindful and considerate of the nearby bridleway to be submitted and approved by the council. Sorry, that's it, yeah.
Thank you, Martin. No other questions? James?
Yeah, I'm a little bit confused about the answer there. I just want some clarification about, is there going to be a meshed roof over the top of the court to stop balls flying out? I wasn't clear from your answer on that.
Can you bring up the presentation? So if you go back to the elevations. So I think this might sound stupid, but let's make sure we're absolutely clear on what we're saying. So if we look at these elevations, you can see mesh top pieces at each end of the court. So my belief is that when we're talking about the mesh piece, we're talking about those extra high bits that stops the ball coming out. We're not talking about netting that goes across the top of the court. So it's not an enclosed court. It's not got a netting roof on it, if you like. As officers, we are happy with the information that's been provided to us that this court is suitable for its use. What we need to confirm with Sport England is that this meets their criteria. We have looked at their criteria and we do not believe that there needs to be a netting installed over the top of the court. So we are expecting the top of the court to be open to the air and not have a mesh across it. The mesh is these pieces at the end of the enclosure. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Alex. Any more questions? No. Right, for the purpose of debate in accordance with Council's Constitution, Meeting Procedures Rules 19.2 and 19.21, I will move the recommendation at paragraph 10, page 87 of the report. It is recommended that the application be approved subject to conditions contained with section 11 of the report. Do I have a seconder? Thank you. Right, members, let's debate the application. James?
Thank you, Chair. I've never played paddleball, but I have played tennis, and I know that can be a little bit noisy, but I have read up on paddleball and the noise issues around it, and I'm aware it can create noise levels 9 dB, decibels, higher than what you'd expect from a tennis court. I've also played squash, and they use a polycarbonate backboard, and the noise generated from that with the ball hitting it is quite loud and can be intermittent, and also you do clatter into the polycarbonate surround and you do hit it, and I understand in paddleball that the surfaces are used to ricochet the ball off. So I think that there is a noise issue that's going to be generated by this court, and it is going to be intermittent, and if it's young people playing, then they shriek and shout, and so do grown-ups as well, because I'm a regular badminton player, and when I'm playing, I'm not distracted about what's going on off the court. I'm quite focused. So to say there's going to be some signage for people to look out for horses coming along, I don't think is adequate. And I've also ridden horses, and they've been spooked, and I've lost control of them. So I'm aware of the risk associated with that. I also note there is an existing MUGA near the entrance to the bridleway. So in some sense, that sets a bit of a precedent for noise in that area. So I'm a little bit, in the balance on this one, shall we say. So I don't know what anybody else, councillors, have to say on the matter. I'm all ears. Thank you.
Would anybody else to come back with a comment?
In my opinion, the horses aren't going to be going down there 24 hours a day. So as long as there's some form of consideration with the players, I don't see it being a major problem.
Thank you, Maurice. Would anybody else like to make a comment? Scott?
I think as James mentioned, the existing MUGA pitch there kind of sets a precedent, so I think I'd be really reluctant to refuse this application, because I do think there's a precedent of a court there that's going to create noise and could potentially disturb passing horses. I would suggest, and I'm quite sure that the parish council would be closely monitor the situation with horses, and I'd invite them to engage with users of the bridleway and find a solution that may satisfy them, although I don't think that's for this planning committee to come up with those solutions, but I would hope that it would be an ongoing conversation in the months and years going forward, and they can find a solution that would work for both the parish council and users of the bridleway.
Thank you, Scott. Anybody else? Darren?
I'm also a horse rider as well, and obviously I've played other sports as well. Just wondering if something like a calendar or something on a website could actually display a booking, for example, and that can be checked out by the public.
Thank you, Darren. Do we have anybody else who'd like to say anything? No? Everybody happy? Okay. Right. I think we've had quite a good discussion on that, and I think we should now go to the vote and the recommendations that have been moved and seconded. So, members, can I clearly show your cards for and against? Right. So I think that's pretty unanimous for. I think that's 8. So the motion is carried. So thank you. Vote is carried, sorry. There was no against and no abstains. So we'll move on to item 7. Final item on the agenda tonight is NE-2024-0466 and Majesty's Court House, Kettering. I'll hand over to Natalie Westgate to present the report and update to the committee. Thank you, Natalie.
Thank you, Chair. The application is outlined to part demolish, convert and rebuild the building for 14 flats, considering appearance, layout and scale at the Majesty's Court House, Dryland Street in Kettering, in the town centre. There was previously application approved in 2001 for conversion to 17 flats, and policy encourages housing in growth towns. There's no comments from neighbours, and Kettering Town Council welcomes the reuse of the vacant site. There was submitted with the application the viability report, which was then independently assessed as instructed by the council, that it's not viable to have section 106 at this site. The application shows here the ground floor flats and the first floor and second floor, so it shows that it meets national space standards. This is the main elevation from the main street at Dryland Street that you would see, and adjacent and opposite there are 3-storey residential flats. This is looking at the side view, and then looking at the rear of the property, and then the other side. This is the view that you see currently. As you can see, there's some boarded up windows as it's been vacant for a number of years. And that sort of visualises the fact that you've got 3-storey flats adjacent to the site. That's the site looking as you go down towards the town centre. And then that's the site that shows that there's existing vehicular access into the building. And then that's just showing the rear of the site. And then you've got the demonstration that you've got apartments both opposite and adjacent to the site itself. I'm asking for a recommendation to approve with conditions that were attached within the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Natalie. We have no request to address the meeting. So, members, would you have any questions for Natalie? James?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, just wanted some clarification on the waste bin storage. On the drawings, it shows 4 large bins apparently, but in the, I think it's the environmental health, it's it refers to 28 domestic type bins. So I was just wondering what is actually in the application on that. Thank you.
As this site plan shows, it's for the 4 wider ones, and Waste had no objection as part of the application. There is site if you needed to increase the amount of waste, and I believe there's a condition on the waste storage, so that could be picked up.
Thank you, James. Anybody else? We're all good. Okay. Well, thank you, Natalie. So, for the purpose of debate in accordance with the Council's Constitution, Meeting Procedures Rules 19.2 and 19.21, I will move the recommendation at paragraph 10, page 106 of the pack. It is recommended that application be approved subject to the conditions contained within section 11 of the report. Do I have a seconder? Thank you. Thank you, councillors. Right, we'll have debate the motion now then. Thank you. James?
Thank you, Chair. The application, the building's going to retain its existing character, which is good. It's going to put the building back into use rather than it being at risk of potential break-ins, vandalism, any squatting. So it's good that it's going to be put back into use. And I'm happy that it's going to be residential use as well. We need more people in the town centre to improve the environment there and encourage more businesses with the service of local residents. So it's all good from my point of view. Thank you.
Thank you, James. Anybody else like to make a comment? Scott?
Just once again to echo James's comments, really, I think this is a really good application. It's a really good use of the building, and it's good to see that it's going to be put into use again, hopefully.
Thank you, Scott. Anybody else like to say anything? No, we're all happy, are we? Okay. So, members, I think we've had a good presentation on that. So I think we should move to the vote, and the recommendation detailed in the report has been moved and seconded. So, members, can I please have a show of cards for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's 8 in favour, none against, no abstentions. So I think that's been carried for. Okay, thank you. And there's no further business to discuss, so I will close the meeting.